Welcome to the Hobby School podcast. Whether you're a seasoned hobbyist or just getting started, Hobby School is the perfect place to learn something new. My name is Dr. Destiny Kopp, and I'm your host of the podcast. But before we jump into our episode for today, the only thing I ask is that if you enjoyed the episode, please share with a friend and give us an honest review on your favorite podcast platform. This helps us get out the content to more people. I also want to invite you to get on our wait list for our next Hobby School Online Learning Summit. These are free to attend, and you can find the link to join at hobbyschool.com, which is also in our podcast show notes. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. And my special guest today is Stephanie Shaw. Stephanie is the founder and host of the Hello Hot Flash podcast. Stephanie took the strategies she implemented to recover from a 2-year illness and turned them into a nutrition coaching and online education business where she teaches midlife women how to manage their hormones, lose weight, have more energy, and slow the aging process. And today we're going to be talking about how nutrition impacts your mind and body. And Stephanie, I am so excited to chat with you and all the things that you help people with: manage their hormones, lose weight, have more energy, and slow the aging process. I certainly want that. And I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this episode want that. But before we get into all the questions that I have for you, can you tell the good audience a little bit more about you and how you help people?
Sure, Destiny. First of all, thank you so much for having me as a guest on the podcast today. I'm super excited to be here. As you said, my name is Stephanie Shaw, host of Hello Hot Flash, and I support women by providing free education to them. So personally, I was sick for 2 years, 18 different doctors, 2 world-renowned medical facilities, $20,000 out of pocket. So I have this deep passion for educating people around what helped me. I was able to go to a naturopathic doctor and was able to bypass all of the medications and so forth. So that's my passion, to teach women how they can do the same thing and live a healthy whole life. And not only with the podcast, I help by a course that I've created called Mastering Menopause. So those are my 2 areas where I try to help us ladies out as we start to age and mature.
So you said you were sick for 2 years. It sounded like you went and saw a bunch of doctors, to 20 grand out of your own pocket.
Yes. It was a lot, Destiny. So I did not know what was going on. Rapid heartbeat after I ate, twitching in my eyes, cold hand and feet, numbness, tingling, my hair falling out. There were so many symptoms. And part of the problem, I think, I never wanted to be diagnosed, to be honest with you, because, that attaches you to something, but yet I wanted to know what was going on. And I think part of the problem was it was changing every day. So some days I was having a problem with the twitching in the eyes. Some days I was not. Here, I did all types of different blood work, different types of tests and so forth. And at that particular time, because I was going to so many doctors, insurance does not pay for everything. So yes, I spent over $20,000 out of pocket. But toward the end, I found someone, or a good friend of mine referred me to a naturopathic doctor, and he did one non-invasive test and said, "Hey, eat this, don't eat that." I'm like, huh? And he gave me 2 pages, a list of things that were not working properly in my body. I changed, and there were good things. So like, I can't eat pineapples, I can't eat cabbage, and there's certain types of apples I can't eat. So it's things that I wouldn't have ever thought about or imagined, but I was able to change the way that I ate, implemented some mindset work, and then also, got rid of the stress, started to move my body more. And it took a while, it was 50 plus years of it all adding up, but in a 6-9 month time frame, I really started to see a difference. And I have been living free of pain and all that jazz for close to 3 years now.
Wow. So it's definitely working.
Yeah,
Whatever you're doing,
yeah,
it's
it,
definitely working. You've had the change and the transformation there. Tell
yeah.
us a little bit about your experience of going to see doctor after doctor after doctor. Did you feel like they just weren't listening to you, or why were they having trouble trying to, basically figuring out what was going on?
Yeah. So I always, a lot of the doctors that I went to were actually friends and people that we knew, so I believe that their heart was into what was going on. They wanted to try to figure out what was going on with me. Some did, some were dismissive. Some just assumed that I was living in an abusive relationship, and I've been married for 32 years, living in this crazy abusive relationship, and it was just all stress related. And some could have cared less. I was just like a number. So I got all different perspectives from the physicians. But what I found was when I started asking like the real questions, coming to the appointments ready, like I had notes. If I left your office, I wanted to see exactly what you wrote down. I needed a copy of it. And a lot of times they would put, I was taking a lot of supplements. They wouldn't add a supplement, or they would leave something off, or it would be the wrong information. When I started calling their attention to all of those things, they started listening to me and taking me more seriously as a patient. And that's how I think it well, of course, the naturopath is the person that helped, but even through the course of the different doctors, I think I started getting closer perhaps to an answer, because I was taking care and starting to advocate for myself. But I will tell you what I have found, I've heard over and over, I've started to study and I've read books on, is bottom line, physicians are trained to do what they're trained to do. So an OBGYN cannot help you with your heart, a heart doctor cannot help you with your bone health, and none of them have extensive nutrition training, which is often the root cause, inflammation in the body. Those are often the root cause of what's going on in our body. So they have approximately 20 hours worth of training the entire time they're in medical school. And I've read that there are also lobbyists who make sure that they keep that amount of time at a minimum. Why, I don't know. But I think that really became the key when, or as often the key when people are going through these different things. Start having those conversations with your doctor, like, is it something that I'm eating? And if they're telling you no, or they don't know, then look for a naturopath or look for someone else who can help you with that part. So that was a super long story, but my journey was super, super long. And at the end of it, I would say that again, it's super important to advocate for yourself, find someone who is listening, and make sure that your nutrition is in line.
And that's one of the things I was going to ask you, because I actually wrote it down while you were talking. You talk about advocating for yourself, but
Yeah.
can you go into a little bit more detail about what exactly that means? Let's just say I have a doctor's appointment scheduled and I'm having issues. How should I plan for that doctor's appointment? How should I act when I'm in the room with the nurse or the doctor? What are your recommendations there?
So I kind of think about you going out to dinner. So if you go out to eat and the waiter comes to your table and spends like 2 seconds and goes, "Hey, what do you want?" You're like, "Huh, wait." And then they come back and they kind of just throw your food on the table, or they're not responsive. They never fill your water. They don't give you a menu. They don't talk you through the menu. You would be upset, right? You would leave the room because you're a customer. Go into your doctor's appointment just like being a customer, and you need to understand that you are there and that they should be giving you a very, very high level of customer service. Now, so that's putting it back on the doctor, but putting some of that intention back on yourself as well. When you walk into that doctor's office, be prepared. So if you're just going for an annual blood work, understand, what are they test? You don't need a medical degree, and I'm not recommending you go to WebMD for everything, but understand a little bit about what they're testing. So go in prepared, write a note down. I've been feeling this way, maybe the week or two before. I'm feeling this way, that way, that way. I want to ask my doctor about that. And I've interviewed quite a few doctors on the podcast, and they've all told me that when you come in and you say, hey, can I ask you another question? It kind of takes that wall down, and it allows them to open up and know that you're there and that you want the information as well. So come prepared, ask the questions, make sure that you also have your physician look at your last year's results, or hopefully the last 3 years results, and compare them to now. So for example, I have a white blood count issue. So when I go in, if they're telling me, I don't take the response of everything is okay. No, show me that it's okay. So when I started to see that my white blood cell count was getting less and less, I'm like, all right, so every year it's only dropping a tiny bit, but it's dropping a tiny bit every year. What do we need to do now? So being your own investigator and so forth when you're there. And the last thing I would say is my mom, I'm advocating for my mom right now. And I asked the doctor specifically, with what you've just diagnosed her with, I know that nutrition can help. What do you need to do? The doctor told me, I don't recommend nutrition. I said, well, fine. Can you write that down? As soon as I said, can you write that in your chart that you're refusing to help her, like find a natural way of doing it? He responded with, but hey, maybe we can do this, and maybe your primary care physician can do this and this. So I learned that also from interviewing someone. When you have someone who is does not want to support you, a doctor that doesn't want to support you, either find a new one and or start asking them to write that down so that you have a record showing that they're refusing to help you in another way. There again, being prepared, I think, is one of the most important ways of making sure that you're advocating for yourself and or for a loved one.
And I love that. And as you were going through that, when you were talking about advocating for yourself, going into the appointment, feeling or understanding that you are the customer, that's somewhat of a mindset shift, right? Because a lot of us, when we go into a doctor's appointment, we might feel rushed. We might feel scared to ask questions. We might say, or if we've asked questions, and I know this has happened to me in the past. I've asked a question and it was dismissed. And then you're like, oh, I feel stupid. I shouldn't have even asked that. So I love what you said there. That is so powerful.
Destiny, quick story. So the same thing happened again, same doctor with my mom. He asked her, every time he asked her a question, he would like talk over her. And so my energy may not have been polite, but my tone was polite. And I said, hey, you're asking her questions. In order for you to serve her better, you probably need to listen for her response. Do you think that would be helpful? And it completely changed the tone, but I had to, like you said, it's a mindset shift. I had to step into my power and know that, he may have more education than me. He knows all the jargon and so forth, but only my mom knows what's going on in her body. So at that point, she is the smartest person in the room. So going in with that mindset that you are the smartest person in that room and all of your questions are super valid.
And no matter what, we understand our bodies and what's going on more so than anybody else. So making sure that we are communicating and feel confident and comfortable enough communicating with our doctor, I think is important.
I agree.
Stephanie, can you tell the audience a little bit about your podcast and how it helps midlife women control the change, and also where we can find you if somebody wants to work with you?
Oh, sure. Well, thank you for that question. So again, the podcast is called Hello Hot Flash, because I say welcome midlife, because this is the best time of life. And folks can find me at hellohotflash.com. You can go there and listen to episodes and so forth. I totally forgot what your question was. I'll be honest.
No, you answered it. So where can people find you, and tell us a little bit more about your podcast? The other thing I just want to mention is we're going to make sure that those links are in the show notes so people can go right there and click on them and subscribe to your podcast so they can. I love the name of that podcast. It is so much fun.
It is so much fun. I love being able to educate midlife women. Part of what we do is we bring science, people who have science base. So we bring OBGYNs and functional medicine doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists, but with a twist. So instead of saying you need to take a medicine, we start to talk about what are the lifestyle changes and the all natural things that you can do to help help this midlife crisis that we're going through. Is it a crisis? I don't know what it is.
And I can certainly relate to it. So Stephanie, thank you so much for, joining me today and educating us about, how the key takeaway I had is what we need to do to go into our next doctor's appointment, to be confident, to be prepared, and to plan for it. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening today. Don't forget to sign up for the waitlist so you'll be the first to know when our next free Hobby School online learning summit launches. The link is in the show notes for this episode, or you can go to hobbyschool.com, and that's Hobby School with school without an H in it. Talk soon.